When you think of the Life is Strange series, what do you think of? You think of the amazing story, the environments, the characters. With the announcement of the new Life is Strange title last month, which is Life is Strange Double Exposure, our protagonist is Max Caulfield, which, if you did not know, Max is the protagonist of the very first Life is Strange game. Who else do you think of when you think of Max Caulfield? Here's a hint. Chloe Price. With the announcement of Life is Strange Double Exposure, there has been an awful lot of questions about Chloe and her appearance in the game. I want to say, I know I've already made a video talking about Chloe Price, but it was more, where is Chloe Price? This is me talking about if I think Chloe Price will be in the game. Also, when I made that video last month, there is a lot more things we know now than we did back then, and I obviously didn't talk about those things because I didn't know. Of course, I'm making a video about Chloe, so I am wearing my brand new Misfit Skull t-shirt. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I post a lot of things on there talking about video games, my recent video game hauls, and I did go to London a few days ago and I picked up this really awesome t-shirt in Forbidden Planet, and I made a whole Instagram post about all the other really cool Life is Strange stuff that I picked up. So I recommend that you follow me on my Instagram. I post an awful lot on there about when I've made videos as well. Just gonna plug my Instagram in right here. Also, I'm even more close to 1,000 subscribers now than I was in the last video when I mentioned it. I just want to say again, as I've said in pretty much every single video, thank you so much all for your support. It has been crazy this last month with the amount of recognition that my videos have been getting and the amount of support and comments and new subscribers on the channel. So I just want to say thank you all so much for joining. Anyway, let's get to the video. Now, as you know, if you've played Life is Strange, there are two endings at the end of the very first Life is Strange game where you can either sacrifice Arcadia Bay or you can sacrifice Chloe. Now, with them including Max Caulfield as a protagonist in this, Max's story in Life is Strange 1 definitely has to be acknowledged in Life is Strange Double Exposure. It's the closest thing to a sequel that we've gotten from Life is Strange 1. I know we have Life is Strange 2, but that isn't really a direct sequel on Max and Chloe. It is a sequel to the game and the universe, but it isn't a sequel to those characters. It's really important that Deck 9 acknowledge both players who either decided to go with sacrificing Chloe or sacrificing Arcadia Bay. Firstly, I want to talk about if you chose to sacrifice Chloe. Now, this makes this a really easy thing to discuss because obviously if you sacrifice Chloe, then Chloe will be dead in this timeline, and I think this does make it a lot easier for Deck 9 to work around this, where there is zero chance of any physical Chloe appearance. Now, the gameplay that we are shown in every gameplay trailer we've had has implied that this is the gameplay from if the player chose to sacrifice Chloe, due to the one conversation that we have with Safi. And now that I've analysed this a little bit more, I've come up with a theory. I'm probably not the only one to come up with this theory, but this is my take on it. So there is a conversation where Safi asks Max why is she carrying around a photo of a blue-haired girl in her wallet, what's the deal with that, and what is the deal with them two. There are two dialogue choices for we were just friends or we were high school sweethearts. In this, Max does refer to Chloe in past tense, which does give me the impression that this bit of gameplay is from sacrificing Chloe. So talking about Chloe in past tense to me implies that in this bit of gameplay we've shown she is dead. So Max is definitely just clarifying to Safi that, oh, we used to just be really good friends, or oh, this was my high school sweetheart. I know technically if you choose to sacrifice Chloe that the things between Max and Chloe didn't technically happen in this timeline, but Max still experienced that week, even though it was in an alternative reality almost. So it is easy for her to say there and then that they were just more than friends, because at the end of Life is Strange 1, if you do choose to sacrifice Chloe, they do share a kiss. And if you ask me, that is not something you would do with someone you're just friends with, so just throwing that out there. So as I said earlier, in this case, it would be a lot easier for Deck 9 to develop a game with this ending. Chloe can be briefly mentioned, but of course there is no way for her to make a physical appearance due to her death. There is a scene where Max is looking at a photograph of Chloe, which I'm assuming this is the photograph in question that she may carry in her wallet. I don't know, I might be totally wrong. But it just says Chloe and Arcadia Bay, and Max seems kind of melancholy looking at the photo. I believe that this is also a gameplay snippet from the Bay ending rather than Bay. Her looking at this photograph could just be Max remembering Chloe. Again, Chloe was a big part of her life growing up and they experienced that week together, or in Max's case, just Max experienced that week with Chloe. So those events probably play a big part in trauma as well. I know 10 years has gone by, but that is still a very traumatizing thing to happen to somebody. And I think that even after all that time, that could potentially be something that Max is still processing. So Max definitely, in that timeline, carries a photo of Chloe just to remember her. There is another photograph that we see, and that is of Joyce, who is Chloe's mother. If you've not seen the TikTok that I mentioned in the previous video, Life is Strange do have a TikTok account, by the way, and they've been posting a whole lot of content about the new Life is Strange game and things that we've not seen on like the YouTube channel and things like that. So I definitely recommend following it. There's some really interesting little TikToks on there, just them talking about the characters and talking about the game. And we did get a new little bit of gameplay of Max putting a Polaroid of Joyce on the wall. Now, if you chose the sacrifice Chloe ending, again, it would make a lot of sense as to why Max has this photo of Joyce. It is implied at the end of Life is Strange 1 that Joyce and Max stay in touch and almost develop quite a close relationship after Chloe's passing. I suppose that combined grief that they're both going through brings them closer together. So again, Max definitely just possesses that photo because Joyce is or was a big part of her life. And I think it is really likely that they stayed in contact even though Max is now all the way over in Vermont. So there's not really a lot to discuss with people who chose the Bay ending because again, it's pretty self-explanatory. Chloe is dead. She's probably mentioned a few times and there is references of her and her past with Max. And it's nice to know that Deck 9 still acknowledged that entire thing between Max and Chloe, even if in this timeline she's dead. But now we're going to discuss the Bay theories. Now, again, just want to say this is all just speculation and theories. Nothing has been officially confirmed. So as I said earlier, the gameplay in the trailer shown strongly implies that that is the Bay ending rather than the Bay ending. So perhaps the conversation we have with Safi clarifying the choices you made changes. And what I mean is that the tense and context of this conversation changes because, of course, in this timeline, Chloe would still be alive. I believe that at the beginning of Life is Strange Double Exposure, before you play the game, it will ask you if you've played Life is Strange 1, and if so, who did you sacrifice, Arcadia Bay or Chloe? This is an option at the beginning of both Life is Strange 2 and the Life is Strange Wavelengths DLC, where Chloe and the events of Arcadia Bay are mentioned and referenced. Of course, with Max in this game, that being a big part of Max's story, this is of course something they're going to have to touch on, and obviously the two other endings, which in this case we're talking about the Bay ending. So I think that this conversation will still take place in this timeline, but the context of the conversation will change, and rather than it being, oh, we were high school sweethearts or we were just friends, it's, oh, we are just friends, or oh, we are high school sweethearts instead. It's in current tense. Chloe is obviously not shown in any gameplay trailers or any of the TikToks, so it's either a secret or Chloe just genuinely isn't there for whatever reason. That doesn't necessarily mean that Max and Chloe have split up or are apart permanently. Maybe just at that time they're doing different things in life, which takes us back to the photo that Max carries of Chloe around in her wallet, because Chloe is still an important person in Max's life. And I know that it is a common thing a lot of people do, that they do carry around photos of loved ones, whether they're in their life or not. So it makes sense. Another thing I want to quickly talk about is Steph. Now, if you do not know, Steph Gingrich is a character in both Life is Strange Before the Storm and Life is Strange True Colors and the Wavelengths DLC, which is about Steph. There is also a book about Steph called Steph's Story, which I really recommend. It is written by Rosie Thorpe, and they did an amazing job just telling Steph's backstory before the events of Life is Strange True Colors. In that book, Chloe is briefly mentioned, and that book is set in the context of Arcadia Bay being destroyed and Chloe still being alive, because Steph is processing the trauma of Arcadia Bay being destroyed, because in this instance, Steph's mother is killed in the storm because she is still in Arcadia Bay, but Steph is out of town at that point. And she does mention about Chloe and her girlfriend, Max, going off the map, going off grid, going from place to place, and they do meet a few times. And so I would really recommend reading that book as well. Steph also mentions Chloe in the Wavelengths DLC, which again, before you play that DLC, it does ask you if you've played Life is Strange 1 and did you sacrifice Arcadia Bay or did you sacrifice Chloe. If you told the game that you sacrificed Arcadia Bay, Steph has a lot of flashbacks in her mind about Arcadia Bay and the destruction of the town and the passing of her mother in that storm as well, and she has a video call with Mikey, who is also in Before the Storm. Unfortunately, Mikey's brother Drew is also killed in the storm, and in this video call they kind of just talk about it, and depending on the dialogue choices you choose, Steph talks about Chloe still being alive and her going off the grid with her other weirdo, which I assumed that would be Max. So they probably did travel from place to place a lot, and Max probably just wanted to settle into something after all that time, whilst Chloe is doing something else. Chloe is probably in Vermont as well, just not at the university, so she could just be doing her own thing whilst Max is doing hers. They're still together, they're just apart for now, not broken up. Now, since I made my last video, obviously that TikTok come out just talking about who is Max. In this TikTok, we get to see a photo on the photo wall of Max and Chloe, and this photo strongly resembles the photo that we see in Life is Strange 2. Again, if you've not played Life is Strange 2, in episode 5, you get to meet David again, and he is at Away. In this timeline, Arcadia Bay is destroyed and David has gone to Away. Him and Chloe have finally rebuilt their relationship and almost reconciled after the destruction of Arcadia Bay. I suppose at this point, David is probably really the only family Chloe has left, so it seems that they have fixed their relationship. And if you go into David's trailer, you do get to see this really cute photo of Max and Chloe that they must have sent or brought to him when they visited. And there is also a phone call between David and Chloe, and it just implies that they're both doing really well, and at that point they're in New York. Now, going back to that photo in the TikTok, it is very similar to the one in Life is Strange 2, and I mentioned in my previous video that it was a different render, but a lot of you guys pointed out in the comments that is probably from a set of photos that Max and Chloe took seconds apart, and they sent one to David and kept another for themselves. So that makes a whole lot more sense. I don't know why I did not consider that, so thank you to you guys that pointed that out. If Max and Chloe were broken up or apart, I doubt that Max would keep that photo. So I think really that's the only bit of gameplay that we know for sure that was part of the Bay ending and not the Bay ending. Because if it was the Bay ending, there is no possible way that Max could have that photo because Chloe would be dead. And obviously that photo is taken roughly between 2 and 5 years after the storm. So it would have been taken between 2014 and 2016, 8 years before Double Exposure. One more thing I want to mention is the comics. I have said in other videos about the comics, and you guys have made it known to me, and I've done my own research, and it is true that the comics are not officially canon, and that was confirmed by the writers. The Life is Strange comics do follow Max and Chloe after the destruction of Arcadia Bay, and it's just almost a continuation and their interpretation of what happens to Max and Chloe after those events. But it's been confirmed and makes sense that they're not canon, because in the comics, Arcadia Bay is being rebuilt 1 year later, and later on in the comics, Max and Chloe do relocate back to Arcadia Bay and live there again in the new rebuilt town. Whereas in Life is Strange 2, in the first episode, at that point the year is about 2016, I think, so it's still destroyed at that point. For sure, Deck 9 definitely have their work cut out for them in this whole entire thing with Life is Strange Double Exposure and Chloe's involvement, especially for people who chose to sacrifice Arcadia Bay. They're obviously not going to impress everybody, and they are going to disappoint people no matter what, and I think they knew this when taking on that role of having Max as the protagonist in the game. Max has a lot of baggage, and they've got to be really careful about how they handle this whole Max and Chloe thing. It is sacred to a lot of people. The Max and Chloe dynamic means so much to the community and is a big part of the Life is Strange community. So it's important that they get this correct. They can't impress everyone, but they knew this with making Max a protagonist. I guess there's only one way for us to find out, and that is to wait until October. That's all I have to say for this video so far. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please do put down in the comments what you think of this whole entire thing. I know everybody has different takes and theories, and in my previous video I spoke more about the possibility of Chloe being alive, so in this video I just touched on both endings and how I think the game will play out depending on the choices that you made in the previous game, as of course it's been confirmed that Double Exposure is going to honour both of those endings. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave me a like, I will really appreciate it, and again consider subscribing. As I said at the beginning of this video, we are very close to that 1,000 subscriber mark. I would be so happy if we were to hit that anytime soon, so thank you so much to everyone for your support. I really appreciate it, and stay tuned for more Life is Strange videos. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Goodbye and take care.